and welcome to our market update here in September. And we are looking back at what has happened so far this year in our local real estate market for 2025 from January through the end of August. I know some of y'all might have noticed we did not do a market update last month. There were some scheduling things going on, but we are back on track and wanting to make sure you are staying in the loop and up to date on what's happening, not only in our local real estate market, but also talking nationally and talking rates, all of those kind of things. So we've got Dustin from Northpointe Bank here as usual to talk all things mortgage and interest rates. But I'm going to start by going through where we stand so far this year for 2024 and how it compares to last year. So let's get started here. So far this year through the end of August, there have been, and this is for Muscogee and Harris County, there have been 1,759 closed sales. And for that same time period last year, there were 1,752 closed sales. So you can see right now we're pretty flat in the market, like from last year to this year where we stand. Not a big difference in total number of closed sales so far for the year. We're up just slightly, but not enough that it's a major market indicator of anything. Average days on the market so far this year is 37 days. And guess what? The same time last year, average days on the market was 37 days. So we're kind of holding par on that. Average sales price so far this year in Muscogee and Harris County is $270,000. And last year for the same time period, it was $254,000. So you can see our average home price is up this year over last year. Our list to sale price percent, what did it list for at that final list price after any price reductions, and what did it actually sell for? We're at 98.1% for this year, and we were at 98.8% last year. So, we're seeing some negotiations happening. Nothing too crazy, but we are seeing more negotiations of some closing costs and different things like that. Right now, there are approximately 471 active listings in the MLS. And this time last year, there were about 310. So you can see we've got an uptick in inventory. We are still extremely low inventory, but we do have a little more inventory right now in the market than we did at this time last year. Pending sales, we are currently at about 298 pending sales, meaning homes under contract. And this time last year, we were at about 312. So you can see we're down a little bit on pending sales. Again, nothing significant. So right now, it's kind of looking like our overall closed number of sales is going to possibly end up close to where it was last year. But we still have a few more months left in the year. So a lot can happen in a few months, and depending on what happens with interest rates, that may impact our market significantly going into fourth quarter. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's look at what sales have been doing on the Alabama side in Russell and Lee County. So far this year for Russell and Lee County, we've had 860 closed sales. This time last year, we had 916. So there is a little bit bigger differential there than in Muscogee and Harris County. Average days on the market, this is crazy to me. Average days on the market for this year is 35 days. For last year, this same time frame, it was 35 days. So both sides, both our Alabama market and our Georgia market. Georgia market's about 37 days on the market for the last full year. And same thing on the Alabama side. We're at 35, and it's the same that it was this time last year. So that's just an interesting little tidbit. Average sales price for Russell and Lee County so far this year is $279,000, and for the same time frame last year, it was $266,000. List to sale price percent for Russell and Lee County so far this year, it's 99.54. And for the same time period last year, it was 99.57. So not a big difference. We're seeing a little less negotiation that's happening on the Russell County and Lee County side of our market. Again, not a big difference between Muscogee and Harris County, but a little bit of a difference. Right now, there are approximately 235 active listings in the East Alabama Board of Realtor MLS system. And this time last year, there were about 310. So you can see we're actually by a pretty significant margin down on inventory compared to last year on the Alabama side. We're holding decent. We're up some on the Georgia side, but we're down on the Alabama side. Pending sales, we have about 161 pending sales right now under contract on the Alabama side, and this time last year there were about 312. So we're going to see for that side, there's going to be a big difference in what actually closes out in volume this year. While I think things might end up being kind of on par with last year for Muscogee and Harris County, I think we're going to see numbers down from the standpoint of overall closed transactions for Russell and Lee County. So that's what our market is looking like right now. I won't say year to date, through the end of August. That's where we are. And of course, we're a few days into September now and almost into fourth quarter. Like September will be over in a snap. And we'll be into that fourth quarter and holiday season and elections and all the things that make fourth quarter crazy. But let's talk about interest rates now. Let's get Dustin in here. And let's get our update on what is happening in the world of mortgages.
Good stuff. All good stuff.
Finally, good stuff. I think that's the first time he has said that all year.
Yeah, all good stuff. So right now, your average conventional mortgage rate is about 6.375. VA and FHA, and if I had a drum roll, I would do it, but for the first time since May of 2022, we are in the fives. So VA and FHA are 5.625 today.
I mean, that's so exciting. And if you're somebody who tracks the financial world, you may know the Fed's meeting in September this month, and we are expecting around the 18th to hear about a rate cut. Dustin and I were just talking about it. We've kind of heard a range of 25 to 50 basis points. Dustin, tell them what your thoughts are if it's 25, how that impacts market versus if it's a 50% or 50 basis point reduction. Give us some of your thoughts on that.
So the anticipation has been 25 basis points. And just for anyone if that doesn't make sense, 25 basis points is just 25% of 1%. So, and 50 basis points would be a half of 1%. So, and that would be a cut in the Fed's rate. They've been anticipating a quarter. I think most banks are generally already pricing that into their rates today because it's something that we've known about or anticipated, thought was coming for quite a while now, at least a couple weeks. If we do see that quarter, I think you can expect maybe rates to decline slightly, probably not enough to mention, just because we already have those priced in, I would believe. But if you were to see
anything down is a positive
good.
Right
anything,
now.
Yeah, anything. And so, and they have been kind of heading in that right direction slowly. I can't remember what I said in January, but I think I said some crazy stuff that I thought they would be in the fives by December. And hey, look, maybe
we won't talk about January. Maybe we will. Actually, there is a chance.
Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah.
I think if we see the half, if we see that full 50 basis points, which I think the data. There may be enough data out there right now that has convinced enough Fed members to suggest that could happen. Typically, when they do things that are more positive for us, that they do not promise, that does typically cause a knee-jerk reaction in a positive way for rates. So it would not surprise me to see, let's just say the rate was 6% that morning. It would not surprise me if they cut rates that day and we had a better rate by the afternoon. And by better, I would think an eighth, maybe an eighth of a point, not a whole half of a point, but I would think anywhere from an eighth to a quarter of a percent in interest rate could potentially be available that wasn't there that morning. So,
right. So it's trending in a good way right now to see rates relaxing some. We've been talking about it all year, waiting for it. We did. Initially, we expected in January to see a little bit better rate environment by late spring, summer.
Right,
we were hoping
right.
for that. And, we didn't really get that in the way that we were hoping.
Right.
But that became evident that wasn't going to happen by probably mid-spring. We kind of knew,
Right.
okay, well, that was a little bit of a pipe dream maybe. Yeah. But it is still trending to be a better rate environment going into 2025.
Right.
And from the reports I'm listening to and what I'm paying attention to, we're looking at speculation going through 2025, potentially seeing somewhere around 8 rate cuts over a period of time. This is not, not necessarily like all in the first couple of months of
Right.
2025, but through the year, potentially up to 8 rate cuts, which also tells you if they're looking at possibly 8, if that's
Right.
a number that some of the
Right.
experts are discussing, that those are going to be incremental. Like they're going to slowly do this, which wouldn't be surprising that they would ease off of it. Because
Right.
what they don't want to do is send the market, especially the housing market, into a tailspin frenzy like 2021.
Right, right.
Although there were aspects of that we loved, that's not really what the goal is here. The goal is to incrementally get good improvement that's sustainable while not causing overinflated pricing and things like that in the housing market. So anyhow, we're trending in a good way. Looks like we were unsure of whether or not we would see rates start to ease down before the election. It looks like that's happening, and then we'll see how things go forward after that. So by the time we're doing our market update in October, we'll probably have a good idea of what the rest of the year is going to look like for rates, and then anticipation of going into 2025, seeing additional reductions. So let's pause that for a minute, and I want to ask Dustin, how does that impact refinance right now? What are your thoughts on refinance and timing of that for those people who have locked in at higher rates over the last year and a half, 2 years?
Right.
Like, give me your feedback on where you feel like the timing is, or that sweet spot might be in the moment in terms of refinance.
I think it really depends on where you locked. If you're someone that is above 7%, I think right now you probably could get something on a refinance that would save you enough to make it beneficial. But me personally, what I'm telling people that call me is to pause.
Yeah.
That's
what I would think too.
Unless you are someone that absolutely, if you need to free up a little bit extra money every month and you really need that, if you're having trouble making that payment, or if there's something else you need to put money towards, and saving $100 or $150 a month on a refinance is something that could really help your family, by all means, we will do that. But if you're someone who's not having issues making your payment, you don't necessarily need that $150 right now. I think that if you could at least wait until after this rate cut to see what happens.
Don't do a refi today.
Right, and I'm honestly thinking that maybe after election time, I think some are thinking we could get another rate cut by November. So at least an entire point lower, and potentially 2 points with the way things are heading. Now, trying to time that, and say, okay, well, we're at 1.5 lower than what I have right now, and we're going to sit on the fence. You could potentially sit on the fence for that extra 0.5 point for 2 years. I mean, we don't really know how long that will take, but I do think that a refinance is going to make sense for a lot of people. I just think you need to make sure that the numbers make sense, because you will get a lot of phone calls with people trying to sell you on a refinance that may not make sense for you. So if you have questions, call me.
You have to think about too, especially we've got so many of our clients that are military, and their VA loans, and they've PCS'd here, and they're going to be here for a certain number of years.
Right.
And we really have to have some real discussions about whether or not it makes sense for you to refinance if we're going to be putting your home on the market in another year and a half, or maybe even 2 years. That may not, the cost of a refinance, even though you can sometimes roll that right back in, it might not make sense for you. So we need to we need to have some conversations, and that's where Dustin can really honestly guide you, because he's not going to just tell you need to do a refi so that he can make a few bucks off of it.
Right.
You know, he's going to be honest about whether or not it makes sense for you to do that refi.
That's been my thing with most people. I mean, you know, and there are people that I have helped that have never met me in person. But what I would say is I do not make any money if I don't close loans. So if I'm asking you to not refinance, it means that I am taking money away from me. So it means that I really believe it's a bad idea for you to do it right this second, unless you just absolutely need that money for your family. Because I think you are going to, 6 months from now, I think you're going to get a lot better deal. I think you're going to save more money, and you will be glad that you did not do it right now. Because what will happen is your typical VA refinance, I would say, just depending on your sales price, but you're not going to close that probably for any less than $3,000 or $4,000. Now those costs can be rolled into your loan, but that also increases the balance. And if you're someone who just recently bought, your home may not have appreciated for enough to have the equity to sell. If you were to get, you know, unannounced orders or sporadic orders to go somewhere else, and you've only been here 6 to 12 months. The technical rule of thumb on VA is 0.5%. Once the market rate is 0.5% better than what you currently have, a lender can refinance you per VA's rules. So you will begin getting cold calls, you know, spam mail, all these things, and they will tell you that there is, you know, no appraisal and there's no out-of-pocket costs, and we're going to give you a complimentary rate reduction, and we're going to do all these things, and they will, but it's going to increase your loan balance, you know, $3,000, $4,000, and that 0.5 point may only be saving you $40 a month.
Yeah, and then if you're needing to sell the house here, like we were talking about in the next year or so, depending on where home values are, like there are a lot of factors, even in a market where we're having nice increase in value, it's a sustainable increase. It's not, we're not talking, you know, 25% increases right now. It could put you in a situation where it could make it more difficult for you to be able to sell the house, and you actually never saved the money.
Right.
You put $3,000-$4,000 into a refinance. You added that to your mortgage, which means you have to pay that money back one way or the other. And 40 if it's saving you $40 a month, and you're only here for another 2 years, it's really easy to start doing that math and realize, wait a minute, it actually cost me more money to have refinanced. So yeah, there are a lot of different ways to look at it, but like Dustin's saying, don't just take those phone calls at face value, because a lot of those people are just trying to close a loan to get a payday. And somebody like Dustin, a professional that really cares about what's right for the consumer, what's right for the client, is going to talk to you and ask a lot of questions to help you determine, does this make sense for you or does it not? Now, at the end of the day, even if he doesn't really think it makes sense, but you're adamant it's what you want to do, he's not going to deny you that, but he's going to be honest with you about what that really means for you in the long run.
Right. So to me, typically an entire point. If you can get a whole point off, I think that's the point where it starts to make sense from a savings standpoint. But even sometimes that doesn't make sense. You know,
it has to do with how long you think you're going to be in that house. What does that plan look like? Where does it leave you, especially for our military families? And it can happen to civilians too with jobs and whatnot, but we see it more often with our military families, where you thought you were going to be here for 5 years, and then come January you get orders for that summer, you know, and that changes everything for you. So, you know, of course you don't build your whole life around the unknown, but those are things that we think about and take into consideration. So,
but I do think it's right around the corner. So I think we're close. So, all
right. Well, here we are in September. Lower rate environment. We've been waiting a long time to feel good about where rates are trending. So it looks like things are going to be in a positive direction rate-wise going into fourth quarter, which also means we could very well see an uptick in overall market for the fourth quarter. We could see more inventory and more buyers come into the market fourth quarter as rates, relax some. So we could end up having a busier fourth quarter than what typical fourth quarters look like. So that'll be interesting to see. Either way, I feel good about where we're headed going into 2025.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that wraps us up for this month in housing. If there's anything you guys need, if you want to talk in more detail with Dustin, how do they reach you?
You can always call me, text me, 706-405-6555.
And for me, same. You can call me, text me, email me, kim@kimmixon.com. And my cell number is 706-332-6349. If you enjoy this, if it's information that you value, please like it, share the post, share it with friends. We try to bring you valuable information that gives you insight into the real estate market that's true numbers, true information, not just hearsay and speculation. So we will see you in October for an update. We'll have, of course, by that point, Fed will have made all their decision on rates. So we'll be able to talk more about that and what is ahead for fourth quarter. So enjoy the rest of your September, and we will see you in October. See ya.